Why would a buyer want to get pre-approved? Does a buyer always have to put down 20%? Why would I talk to different banks about getting a home loan? We are going to answer these questions and more today, so let's get started. Hi, I'm Laura Clute with Ozark Gateway Realty, and I work with lakefront sellers who are animal owners. I'm here today with Michele Linehan, a senior mortgage loan originator at Centennial Bank, and they have offices in Arkansas and other states. Michele, how long have you been at Centennial Bank?
I've been at Centennial a little over 4 years, but I've been originating mortgage loans for over 25.
Yeah, so you definitely have some knowledge about the business.
Yeah, I've been doing it a while. I love what I do for a living, so I'm one of those people who's truly blessed.
Yeah, well, and you don't see that very often anymore, that people actually stay in the same focus for such a long time. You see them bouncing around, so it's nice to know that you have someone to work with that has knowledge and knows what they're doing.
Yeah, things change all the time in mortgage lending, and so it's like something new every day, and everybody has different issues that they need to address, whether it's they're buying a house to live in as a primary residence or a second home, or they're buying an investment property, and of course the rules change all the time. So it is kind of a new adventure every day.
Right. Yeah, you never know who's going to call you and what kind of opportunity they're looking for.
Exactly. So it keeps you on your toes.
So let's get started with some basics. What do lenders look for when they get a home loan application?
Well, we basically there's the different components that we look for. We look at credit, we look at income, we look at assets, and then we look at the property and, of course, the title part of the property, which I'm sure you'll probably invite somebody on that can talk to you about the intricacies of title work, why you need it. But we look at pretty much those components.
Right.
So, one of the first things we're going to look at is usually credit. As soon as you apply, we're going to pull a credit report and take a look at your credit to see if you are within the parameters that are required for a mortgage loan.
Just to at least give them a basic idea of if they can get it approved or not.
Exactly. And the rules are pretty much the same across the board. Remember, you have, the big GSEs, the government-sponsored entities that kind of set the parameters for mortgage lending. So you've heard of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Right.
They have basic guidelines, and then you also have the investors, in other words, the people who are supplying that money, whether it's the bank itself or if they're using another investor that's underwriting that loan and funding it. And they sometimes have what we used to call overlays. There's not many of them anymore. For the most part, a 620 or will put you in the market for a mortgage. There are a few lenders that will do less than that, but they're becoming less and less over time.
Okay. Yeah, just because they've seen that it's too much risk for them. They don't want to take the chance.
It is. And after, 2007, 8, and 9, when we had the big mortgage crisis, they've cleaned up their portfolios a lot. And honestly, it's not just for the investor, but it's also for the client. I mean, the last thing any of us want to do is put somebody in a loan that they don't really have the wherewithal to pay. So we want to make sure that they are getting into the loan they need, that they can make their payments, because believe me, the last thing anyone wants to do is foreclose on a property.
And of course, along with credit, you're going to have a job, an income verification, or maybe not a job, but a career to show that you can actually pay off that mortgage.
Right. You do have to have an income stream. So we're looking at reliable, stable sources of income. So whether it's a W-2 job, or you're self-employed, or you're retired, or you're living off of some kind of investments, we have ways to calculate income in a variety of manners. What they normally look at for somebody who is working a regular job, which is the bulk of the people who purchase, is do you have a 2-year work history? If not, kind of why not? Were you in school? Did you get out of school and start in the career field that you studied for? We can get away with that. But they want you to be able to show that you can hold down a job and that you have a reliable source of income that we anticipate will continue.
Right. Yeah. And that's the important thing, that it's going to continue on. So sometimes people have trouble moving from state to state because they had an income there, but are you going to have one when you get here?
Yes. Professionals like doctors, nurses, a lot of them, sometimes educational employees, will have an employment contract. We're seeing that a little more in some manufacturing industries where, the job market has been really tight. And so a lot of those employers that may be opening plants somewhere else are asking their employees if they're interested in moving, and they will give them a contract. And if we have a contract, that kind of takes care of that. But if you have other types of jobs that are more hourly type, something that's not considered a profession, which is kind of a gray area, but those are a little harder because they're going to want you to show that you have employment, that you've been on the job, and that you're earning money.
Okay.
So it makes it a little more of a challenge. And the same thing with self-employed borrowers. So when you're moving your business from, say, Texas or California to Arkansas, they are going to want you to be established and to be able to show that underwriter that your earnings have remained the same after that move.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're doing something that you could do anywhere, you're doing, say, advertising, web design, something like that, where you're mostly computer-based anyway, it doesn't matter where you are. Those are a little different. But if you've got an actual business that has either a storefront or you're doing things on site, you're a flooring installer or whatever, then they're going to want to see that you actually have that business established in the location that you're living.
So we have sometimes seen where buyers don't necessarily have to have both their spouses on a loan. Why would someone not put them and their spouse on a loan?
Generally speaking, if they opt to leave off a spouse, it has to do with credit issues. Sometimes you have spouses that have been married for a long time and their credit scores are almost exactly the same. Once in a while, they're exactly the same, but that's kind of rare because there's always some little thing that's a little bit different. But sometimes you have spouses that maybe one of them had some credit issues before they got married, or after they got married, something happened that was only in their name and caused their credit score to decrease. And in some instances, or maybe they have no credit. In some instances, that will cause them to decide as a couple that they would rather only have one spouse or the other on the loan. And that's something that we can help them, we can give them information. Some programs are more sensitive to credit score. So on a conventional loan, every 20-point difference in credit score up until you hit 740, there's going to be a change in the interest rate. So for a conventional loan, if you have one spouse at 680 and one at 740, it's going to be cost effective maybe for them to just go with that spouse that's at the 740 credit score, as long as their income can support the loan.
Right. Now, like with a VA loan, if one is a veteran, that wouldn't necessarily mean you have to keep one of the spouses off, if only one of them is a veteran.
No, I mean, if you're doing a VA loan, the veteran has to take that out. Right. So if the veteran's the one with the low score and the spouse has the higher score, that's great, but the low score always drives the interest rate. Right. And the spouse that is the vet is the one that they have to be on that loan.
Right. Okay. When we talk about getting ready to buy a home, sometimes we just throw words around like pre-qualification and pre-approval. How are those different, and which one would put you in a better position?
Well, definitely a pre-approval will put you in a better position. And the difference is, on a pre-qualification, a potential buyer fills out an application and gives it to the bank, the investor, whoever they're going to work with.
Right.
They look at that application, they pull credit. Pretty much across the board, they pull credit. There are a few instances that I've heard of where they didn't, and that pre-qualification letter is pretty much useless. Right. But they at least pull credit, look at what they put down as income. hopefully run some kind of automated underwriting in the background to make sure that they qualify for the type of loan that they have determined with their loan officer is the best for them. And then they issue that pre-qualification letter. But they have collected no documents.
Right.
On a pre-approval, we will collect all the documents that you would normally collect for that loan from the client. So bank statements, investment account statements, W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns, whatever we need for that particular loan, we send it to an underwriter and they review it and actually issue a firm pre-approval. So we know that the buyer themselves is capable of taking out that loan for that much money and that there aren't going to be any problems on the buyer side. So
Right.
it's a firm offer is what it is. And
Right.
we do that as a bank. Centennial Bank does offer a pre-approval process. There are a lot of lenders that do not.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's
Well,
not everybody across the board that does that.
Okay. So pre-qualification, maybe you could get the same day, but a pre-approval would wait
Take
until
a
you
little
had all
longer.
your paperwork in so you could actually do the full pre-approval.
Exactly. So on a pre-qualification, I mean, if somebody's working with me, I can usually get that done in probably 30 minutes. I mean,
Okay.
it doesn't take long once you have all the information to pull a credit report, run it through automated underwriting, and issue that letter. So once they're done with all that, then we go ahead and issue that letter, and they have a pretty good idea. And of course, you know, the longer you've been doing this, the more you know. And I mean, I don't necessarily need to run an automated underwriting finding to know if somebody's going to approve or not. You know, it's just after all these years, I can see the red flags, and if there's something that's looks a little, you know, like it might not work, then obviously I'm going to want to do that. But a lot of times I can talk to a client and just through conversation pretty much let them know, you know, whether or not they're going to be good to go or not.
Right. So essentially, once you've got that pre-approval done, all you have to do then is approve the house. Get the appraisal.
Exactly.
and
Just
title
looking
work.
at the property. So then all you need is your appraisal and title work.
Today we talked about home loan applications and getting pre-qualified or pre-approved. Come back for next week's video where we answer more of your home buyer questions. In the meantime, check out this download in the description, creative ways to come up with your down payment. See you next time.